Okay, boys and girls, now we're gonna build the client. Client will have the same shape as the server. We'll start with the easy and the fancy stuff. That would be the arc parse, and that would be the color outputs. And we quickly will create the parser with arc parse, with the only difference being that we'll add additional argument. So we'll call it simple TCP socket client, and let's add the first argument. That would be config, and it will have the destination of CFG, and it will have no default value, and it will have a help text that says path, path to config file. Now the more interesting thing here is the second argument. That would be the message we sent. We'll just call it a message. It will be in the destination message for convenience. It will have a default value, let's say the base of a GraphQL query, with a simple help text of message query. That's it. Maybe GraphQL query. All right, now it's time to parse. The parsed arguments will be in arguments. So parser parse the arguments, and the next thing would be to check if we have a configuration or not. So if arguments CFG, if we don't have it, so if not argument CFG, we'll print something fancy. Well, that would be if we don't have a CFG. So we have a missing config from the last time. It was in bloody red. So missing config and new line, and before the new line, style reset all, but actually from Colorama I will import foreground, background. I don't have any background for now, so style. So that's fine for now. Now we check the config. The next thing is to read the config. That might be useful to be in separate functions. However, as we know, function calls are expensive in Python, so let's not do that. There is no need to do it for this simple application. Let's try to open it, of course, in read mode as JSON config. We don't have JSON. Import JSON. And we'll attach it to config. So load the JSON config. Now as we have the config, because code is very much similar to the one in the server, now it's time to, let's run it just to, oh, blank line. This will not stop it, doesn't matter. Let's just ensure missing config, that's fine. Cool. So the next thing is to actually start to send requests over the socket. Okay, so now let's build that the actual sending part. Let's open the client, and we actually need to import socket here. Okay, like in the server, I will wrap it in a try except clause, and we'll catch all exceptions. So if it doesn't send by some reason, we'll just print a fancy offensive message being in a bloody red, stating the config is bad or server is unresponsive server, assuming everything is fine on our end. And we'll close the style, reset all, new line of course. And now here in the context manager, we will have socket with the class socket. And now here is a bit interesting because I need to specify the address family that we will use and the type of the socket. So there are a lot of options here. I will explain just the one we intend to use. This would be address family inet, which basically states for IPv4 address family. As you saw, we specified in the config file IPv4 address, my loopback IPv4 address. We can have a Unix socket. We can have Bluetooth, CAN bus, I think, and many different AppleTalk, IPX, whatever. And currently we use this one, and the type of the socket we use a blocking one, which in socket representation, in the library representation, is sockstream, that first one. Alright, so we represent that current socket is being sock, and our sock have to connect to the config that we already read. That would be the host with config get port, and close this. Okay, but I think this should be in a tuple. So let's add the actual configuration in a tuple. And now it's time to send. Anyways, we'll use the send all method. Here the important part is that sockets, at least these sockets, transfer bytes instead of just pure strings. So we need to encode whatever the message we have. And we don't need to check if we have a message because we have a default value already. So whatever we have, we just, and we arg the arg parse parser, the arg parse parser argument parser ensures that whatever we get as an argument, we get it as a string. And because we know that we have a string, in our case, we'll just encode it. And we use the default encoding options. We'll just call arguments, and the destination of our message is an attribute called message. So arguments message will be just encoded. So I think that would be enough. Let's see if this will work. Let me open new window, activate Python server. We specify the config file and it should start listening. And same as with the client, config file would be config, and we specify a message that would be test. Here we go. Here is a successful working socket connection.